Hello, hello, hello. I am Chelsey.
And I'm Sammy, and this is
Deepish.
Hi, you guys.
Hello. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, you guys. We have a special treat for you today.
Yes, we have Sarah Clark on the podcast.
I know. This episode was so great because I feel like she had so many good little nuggets about health and fitness and body positivity. She really opens up about her body and the challenges that she's faced throughout her life with it and how she's come to a good spot. In the past, she's done a lot of coaching with health and fitness, helping women get in touch with their bodies. She's gotten a lot more into the spirituality side of things and really being in tune to her body, intuitive eating, and just opens up about a lot of vulnerable things about her life.
Yeah, she was so candid, open. She started having body image issues in high school and then has really worked through a lot of her relationship with food and her body. It's a very healing conversation we had, and then we go into being very mindful. And it really transcends, obviously, food, just in general, your life and how you're feeling and how you're doing, and taking a minute to really put yourself first and everything. I think it's a very powerful conversation. She also opened up about her husband's pornography addiction, and I really commend both of them for being so vulnerable and honest and open. They're helping so many people, and it was really interesting to hear her side of that and how that has affected her, empowered her, and like strengthened their relationship individually and together as a couple. I really appreciate her being so willing to share some very heavy and taboo topics.
Yeah, you can tell she's done a lot of work on herself and a lot of self-help. She references a lot of really helpful and insightful quotes or
tools and techniques to really start today loving your body, putting yourself first, and being mindful.
And it was just the perfect episode of her telling her story while at the same time inspiring others, which I thought was really cool.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, you guys, this episode is sponsored by Minky Couture, which honestly is my dream sponsor. Something about a Hugs Minky blanket fresh out of the package. I feel like I need one for every special occasion. I'm like, okay, the seasons are changing. Let me get a fresh Minky because they make life that much better. So I've been thinking I want to get one for my IVF journey just to be with me through my whole egg retrieval and the transfer and have something to snuggle up. I got my very first Minky blanket when my mom passed away. My friend gifted me that. And now it's my go-to gift for somebody who's lost someone or is going through something, because wrapping that, it literally is a comfort warming hug.
Yes, exactly. My first experience with Minky was when Lennox, he's 7 now, he was in the NICU, and they gave him to all the parents in the NICU a small infant blanket.
They did?
Yes. And I remember just wrapping Lennox in that and cuddling with him skin to skin and then putting the Minky over, and it meant so much to me. It was such a thoughtful little gesture. I've had all my babies wrapped in it, and I just fell in love with the company then, and now my house is covered in Minky blankets. My boys on their beds, when we're cuddling on the couch watching a movie. It's weird how it's becoming part of our story a little bit.
Totally.
And they have so many different sizes, textures, patterns. You will 100% find the one that matches your aesthetic, what texture you like, everything. And some are a little more weighted, like the Hugs version. It's so good. If you want to experience it yourself, head over to minkycouture.com and use code DEEPISH for 50% off.
50% off. It's amazing.
Get cozy, stay soft, and hold on to those blankets while they become part of your story.
Okay, so Sarah, welcome to Deepish.
Thanks.
We're so excited to have you here. We want to get into your intro and let our audience know who you are and where you're from and all that. So where did you grow up?
Orem, Utah.
How do you feel like your upbringing was, your childhood, all of that?
Yeah, I loved where I grew up. I grew up at the heart, close to Provo Canyon, right next to Harmon's, in that area over there. And I loved it. I loved the neighborhood that I lived in. I loved the friends that I had. I mean, everybody has hard things in their childhood, but for the most part, I loved my childhood. I loved where I grew up. I loved the night games and the people in my ward and things like that. I'm the youngest in my family, the youngest of 4.
That dynamic ring true to you, youngest baby, spoiled,
Sure.
Your parents are chill.
Oh yeah, we joke about it sometimes, how my oldest sister got parented so differently than how I got parented. Night and day of how the rules are held for her, for me not as much. My parents were way more chill. So yeah, for
Isn't
sure.
that funny how your siblings could have such a vast different experience in the same household?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that so heavily with my own siblings. We're under the same roof. We're all super close in age, but we all have such different realities and perception on our parents, each other, everything, and we're both living the same reality. It's so
Yeah.
interesting and strange.
Totally.
What do you feel like you were into growing up? Were you super athletic, or were you into sports?
Yeah. My family's very athletic. And so my dad would take us, my family went to go hiking. We would go mountain biking. I played soccer growing up. I ran a little bit of track, but honestly, I wasn't that great of a track runner. I mostly did it to stay in shape for soccer and because there were cute boys in the track class, so I'd like to take it. I did lots of sports. I did student council in high school, very involved with my school, with groups, with just everything. I was very social. I loved everybody around me.
What about in high school? Did you know what you wanted to do for your future? Did you go to college, or what was that kind of tail end of high school like? Did you know what you wanted out of your future?
I had an idea because it was in high school that I started getting into healthy eating. And it was very interesting to me. And I was like, I honestly don't know what I would go into at college. I was like, accountant, what? Doctor, what? I don't want to do any of those things. I was like, I'll study nutrition. That sounds really interesting. But it was after high school. I went to a year at UVU just doing generals. And then I actually served a mission for the church in Chile. And so I did that. Loved my mission. Great. Came home, went to another year of college. But when I came home from mission, I actually got into door-to-door sales. And so I started,
Amazing.
so in 2019, I started selling pest control door-to-door. And then I switched over to Vivint in 2020. And then end of 2020 is when I met my husband, and he sold solar. And so I ended up switching over. We got married, and then now I'm selling solar. At that point, back in 2020, sales was going really well for me. I was pretty decent at it. And honestly, I didn't love school, and I knew I didn't want to become a dentist. I was studying exercise science, and everybody in the major was like, I'm become a dentist, a doctor, PA school, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, I kind of just want to coach people. I just want to do nutrition coaching. You don't need a degree for that. And obviously education can be important, but for me, being in school did not feel aligned. I felt so constricted. And so sales was going well for me. And so I was like, I'm just going to pursue this and see where this takes me. Not yet knowing what am I going to do with this nutrition passion. I actually dropped out of college in 2020. Great time to drop out too.
Yeah.
when
You're like, I'm
everything
sick.
happened.
COVID.
Well, it ended up being so perfect because COVID happened and then you couldn't go to college anymore. And I was like, I probably failed all my classes that spring semester of 2020 when everything went down. And at that point, I was like, what am I doing? This is not what I want to be doing. But society tells you, or culture tells you, you go to high school, you get a degree, and then you get a 9-to-5 job. And I was like, this is not for me.
It's so true. Unless you are becoming a doctor or a lawyer, something very specific, it feels like education in that sense is becoming less prominent. You know?
It's really beautiful. And people bag on this too, that people are coming out with courses here, left and right. But in a sense, it's also a really cool thing because now you don't necessarily need education unless you're totally right. You're becoming a financial advisor or a doctor. I'd hope you go to school. But if you're wanting to become something else, there's so many ways to educate yourself outside of just college.
Yeah.
And you can also be more specific. This is exactly what I want to learn about. So I'm going to do a course on it.
And so much more opportunity. I'm sure that's how you saw with sales. You're like, oh, wow, I can make a lot of money and not go to school.
Totally.
But it's becoming less taboo as well. For me, it was like if you even go to like trade school, it was looked down on. Like you're going to hair school, you're going to cosmetology school, that's a no-no. But now these kids are making more than some of their parents graduating from high school doing social media or whatever it is. And I think it's more acceptable and there's more opportunities. But it's hard because now at my age, I'm like, traditional schooling feels like such a luxury. I would kill to sit in a college class and learn about history. I am craving that because at 18, I didn't care about anything I was learning. But now I'm like, oh, what a privilege it is to be able to learn, and these amazing teachers are sharing their knowledge with you and stuff.
Totally. There's definitely pros and cons to the opportunities to make money so young, and there's lots of pros to it. But there's also lots of cons to it because if they're not smart with their money, and a common thing in door-to-door sales too is you just go buy the cool cars and you kind of get locked into this door-to-door sales because you spent all your money and now you got to go back and make it again. And then there comes a point where people are like, oh my goodness, I have taken my lifestyle to here. I actually don't want to knock doors anymore, but if I do something else, I'm going to have to drop my lifestyle, and I don't want to do that. It's this really sticky situation. You start making all this money, so you take your lifestyle up here, and then that's why people get stuck in it.
It's so interesting, the science behind door-to-door sales. I'm curious what it's going to look like in 30 years.
Oh,
For these
same.
people who are making $300K a summer or whatever, and then they're 50 years old and have spent all their money or don't have any other like passions or skills or things that they've gone into. I mean, sales is always there. I'm sure you can sell software, you can sell over the phone or whatever. It really is interesting when you're getting that much money at 19 years old and you're buying these fancy cars and stuff. It's probably a lot of trying to get back to that, chasing that.
Totally.
again.
Well, it's been interesting for my husband and I, because this is actually the first summer that we have not gone out for
Wow.
door-to-door sales.
And how has that been?
Oh my goodness. Holy moly. Utah summers are amazing. I haven't had a Utah summer in 9 years.
I feel like that's the con of door-to-door sales. I think about that all the time. I'm like, you're missing out on all of these Utah summer.
Yeah. And again, there's pros and cons to both. But also when we were selling,
Money.
then we'd make more and we'd also get these cool incentive trips and be able to travel. And that was so fun. So there's pros and cons to both. But obviously, as we start growing our family, there is a sense of wanting to be grounded in a place and wanting to stay somewhere. But it has been interesting stepping away and realizing, okay, we aren't making as much as we were. There will be a time period where in this growth phase, we have had to adjust certain things and it's really uncomfortable. It's necessary though. At some point, we're going to have to go through it.
Taking a few steps back to make more steps forward.
For sure. Yeah. And that's a scary jump for a lot of
So
people.
how did you decide to get into sales? I feel like as a girl, it's pretty unique. I hear girls do really well selling, but
Yeah.
how did you get introduced to that door-to-door lifestyle?
So I was going to a CrossFit gym and I actually ran into one of my friends from childhood. We both went to the same gym. We met up and then her now husband, they were going to go sell. So they tried to recruit me. At first I was like, heck no, I'm not doing this. All the guys in high school are doing this. I'm not becoming a sales bro. There's such a bad rap around it. No, I'm not doing that. And then they started to show me things. They did the sales tactics on me. And at that point, I did not have a lot of money to my name. And being able to develop those skills or be able to make some money in that time is something that I really needed. I also love talking with people and meeting new people. And I like doing hard things sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I don't really know what I ended up doing it. It was incentivizing that it was in Utah my first summer. So I sold pest control in Utah.
Okay.
More in like North Salt Lake. So that felt a little bit of like, okay, I can do this. I'm still in Utah. I can still be with my family.
And then you met your husband through sales, or how did you guys meet?
The guy who recruited me to sales was in the MTC with my husband. This is probably really confusing. So when we sold pest control and then we all switched over to Vivint, my manager was in the MTC in the CCMA in Mexico City with my husband, Hunter. And this couple, my manager, his wife is one of my best friends. And he always had this brand on the side of his arm, like this scar. And he's like, yeah, in the MTC, we took hangers with one of this other guy and we put them on irons and we put them on our skin and they gave themselves brands in the MTC. Isn't that crazy?
18-year-old
Oh
children.
my goodness.
Just
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's wild.
And so he always told me that he did it with another guy in the MTC. And then all of a sudden it ended up being my husband.
But little did you know he was talking about
Yeah,
your
now my
future
husband has this brand right here that he did in the MTC with him. But essentially, long story short, we met through mutual friends. It was partially through
Was it a
manager.
setup or was it like you guys just happened to be at the same
Yeah.
place and hit it?
my husband was trying to get in with me. Yeah.
He's like, she's
it's
cute.
better when he tells the story because I'm like, he was trying to get me, guys.
Yeah.
No. Basically, one time he was talking to this manager, that his friend from the MTC, my best friend's husband. If you're following, if this is all making any sense.
yeah.
He was talking to them and the manager was like, hey, there's this girl, but you'll never be able to get her.
Like,
so obviously
watch
that,
me.
yeah. And so obviously that piques my husband's interest. He's like, F you. Okay. And so he started following me on Instagram. And then my friend started telling me like, hey, this guy named Hunter Clark, he wants to take you on a double date. I'm like, sure, I'm down. I'll go on a date. Never happened. And then Hunter ended up I had like two friend groups. I had like my sales friend groups and then I had my past high school friend group. And Hunter just happened to know both groups. And so he started hanging out with my high school friend group, which I was hanging out with a lot when I got back from summer sales. And so he was just becoming friends with them so that he could eventually hang out with me. So one night I was going to go hot tub with some of my friends in that group. And Hunter just happened to appear that night. And he tried to act all cool like he didn't know me. But I went up to him and he came up in his cool Tesla that he earned that summer. And I was like, what's up, Hunter Clark? And he was trying to act all cool like, oh, I'm not supposed to know who you are, because we hadn't actually officially met yet. But I was like, I know we know each other. And so we're not going to play it all.
I love that confidence.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to play it off like we don't know each other. We know each other. You've been wanting to take me on a double date. We're not going to act like we don't know each other, you know?
I love that.
Yeah, then we went hot tubbing and we hit it off. And honestly, we hung out every day since then. Neither of us were working since we were on the off season of sales. And we got married 4 months later.
Wow.
4 months.
The typical Utah. I didn't say I was going to do it, but then we did it.
Like engaged after 4 months or married?
Engaged after 3 months, married in 4 months.
Wow.
My engagement was 3 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we definitely would have dated longer and we would have waited longer. But there was a sense of, if I'm going to go out and sell with you, I'd rather just be married. If we're going to get married, I'd rather just be married to you rather than dating you. Now I look back and I'm like, okay, we probably, with some shifts that I've had in my own life of like, oh, okay, we probably could have dated and been just fine. I don't regret getting married by any means, but back then it's like
The pressure.
Yeah, if we're going to live together, I'd rather just be married and be married before we go out and sell rather than wait.
Then just start our lives together and go forward.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so going back to your upbringing, you said your family's super into health and fitness. Do you feel like that sprouted your interest in it, or maybe relates to some of the body issues that you've had? Was there that pressure growing up, or that passion bred from your family?
Definitely part of it was bred from my family. I feel like my passion for nutrition started when I was a junior in high school. My older sister got home from her mission and, you know, people go on their mission. Sometimes they gain weight, they come back feeling really uncomfortable. And that was the position she was in. So she's like, hey, let's do the Whole30. You know what the Whole30 is, right?
I feel like that's everyone's gateway.
Yeah, right.
to, like,
It really,
finding
it
something.
totally
Yeah.
is. And I was the youngest in my family, and I was like, okay, if my mom and my sisters are going to do it, I don't want to be left out, so I guess I'll do the Whole30 with them. And so obviously I have to go on Pinterest. I look up what food I can eat, and then I start learning, wow, mushrooms can do this to your brain, and carrots are good for your eyes. And I was so fascinated that different food was so good for your body. And then on Pinterest, I see abs are made in the kitchen, and then I start seeing Pinterest pictures of these girls with these really cute abs. And by that point, friends are starting to talk about their bodies and body figures. And so it started getting to my head like, oh, if I control my nutrition, I could get abs and I could be super good looking, have a good body. And so I started to eat really healthy, and I started getting praised for eating really healthy. People started being like, wow, Sarah, you have really great discipline. Wow, good job. Sometimes I'd get comments from family members saying, wow, good job for not eating the cookie. Good job for doing this. Wow, Sarah, you're starting to look really good. And I'm just like fueling this, like, oh my goodness, this feels really good. People are seeing what I'm doing, and I'm being so disciplined. I'm getting praise for it, getting validation for it.
What was your relationship with your body growing up prior to this? Did you have a healthy relationship with your body, or was this your first time where you're realizing, I don't look like this and I want to look like this?
I can't remember how old I was, but there was a moment that I do remember in a dressing room, and a family member told me to not stick my stomach out and to suck my stomach in. And that was the first time that I had the thought, oh, I have a big belly and I need to watch my stomach. I stick my stomach out. And so that was the first time that I was like, something's wrong with my stomach if I'm being told to suck it in.
So that was early age.
I'd probably say 10 to 12, maybe.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I really had a ton of struggles, but I would say it was more in high school when some of the thoughts around my body started to be like, I want to fix my stomach. I want to fix my stomach. I want to fix my stomach. And so when I started thinking these things on Pinterest, it was like, that's how I fix my stomach.
You're drawn to the abs. You're like, this is the solution to all my problems.
Yes, that's how I can get a small stomach. That's how I can get a six-pack. That's how I can be skinny. And that's what I guess is the way that you become loved.
Were your parents super focused on nutrition, or mainly just like living an active lifestyle, like the type of foods that you were served growing up? Did they ever educate you on? Because I know in my family, I feel like the only veggies we ever ate was like canned green beans and canned corn. I didn't know what a beet was or these fancy vegetables because we didn't have a ton of variety. Just even growing up in the 90s and 2000s, it was a lot of ramen noodles and frozen pizzas and stuff. Were your parents good at educating you on nutrition? Was that a big part of their life?
My parents were really active. Nutrition, I wouldn't say that they were educated of here's a protein, fat, carb, fiber, but my parents generally ate healthy, at least from what I remember. I don't really remember from like 1 to 8 what we ate like. According to my siblings, it seems like it was more like the chicken rolls, which I love chicken rolls, by the way, but more of that kind of style. But once I started getting into junior high and high school, my mom would start cooking pretty healthy meals, vegetables, and it seemed like a very balanced plate, but it was never necessarily education around that. But I feel like my parents always ate pretty healthy, but it was more the active lifestyle. And they never necessarily taught. It was more just
That's what we do.
example. Yeah, it was just like, that's what we do. We're just an active family.
But was it ever around body? Were they active to look a certain way, or was it just like we're just active lifestyle?
Yes, I'm sure. I do remember my mom sometimes doing diets here and there. It's interesting. I'd be curious to talk to my siblings to see if they feel any different, but I don't vividly remember my mom being super like talked about her body a ton. Sometimes here and there for sure. It's hard talking about parents on a podcast. I want to be super careful because I want to respect them too, and I want to respect their own journey, but I definitely think some of the things that I have struggled with have come from them, and it's not their fault. It's conditioning. It's passed down. It's just the way the society teaches us, and I don't blame them for anything, but it is my responsibility to
Correct some of those.
Yeah, to correct it.
thought patterns.
And
Exactly.
I think a lot of kids have that same perception. Our generation is shifting that a little bit where they're more aware of, the gentle parenting or whatever. But I think as a mom, and you have a daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just like the mother-daughter. Obviously, our moms were so into the Atkins diet or whatever it was when we were growing up, because body image is a huge thing. And so not letting that get down to your kids is such a hard thing to do. And to not talk about your body. My mom was always overweight most of my life, but never really talked about her body. And I feel like that was almost a disservice of not even acknowledging it or teaching me those things. So it is a balance of, like, if you talk about it too much, that can be bad. If you don't talk about it enough, it can be bad. And I think every girl can remember a memory of their mom saying something about their own body.
And I can too.
Yeah.
I just don't say it explicitly like this is what she said, because one, I can't vividly remember, and two, there is a sense of I also want to respect my mom and her own journey too, and like it's not her fault, and it's not my grandma's fault either.
It's interesting how women, like, you just don't realize, just mothers and daughters, they're so influential, and it probably does relay into it, good and bad.
For sure. And something that I have been realizing is, because sometimes it is easy to be like, where did this come from? And then sometimes I will hear my mom say things like, oh, whoa, you totally mirrored something. And I see where this is coming from now. And again, I don't say it's her fault, but I can see how this might have come down a generational line. And so now it's my responsibility to become aware of this and realize I don't want to think this way anymore. I actually don't want to believe this way anymore. And I want to change the paradigm here. I want to change the shift. So that way I can really live in alignment with who I want to be, how I want to feel in my body, rather than living in a place of, I don't like this. And how can I change this? And nobody consciously realizes this, but how can I change this so I can feel like I belong? And that's what Brene Brown talks a lot about too, is everybody just wants this feeling of belonging, of being loved, of being seen. And so a lot of the things that we try and do is to change so that we can feel like we belong. When in reality, once you can realize that, you can really shift, how do I want to go about this? Now, it doesn't mean you can't feel good in your body. That doesn't mean you don't deserve to lose weight or to want to feel good. It's not either or. It's actually both and. It's like, how can I go about this in a way that is aligned and serves me and is out of love rather than hate and out of I'm not good enough, out of I don't belong.
For sure. Once you were done with Whole30, do you feel like that pendulum shifted to, once you get into that world, did you get like a little too deep into it?
For sure. Yeah.
Where you become obsessive of what you're putting in your body?
Yeah, you could say I was borderline orthorexic, which is basically like you become too healthy to the point that you are actually unhealthy. Was never diagnosed, but if I could put something on there, a label or anything that would make it make sense, it would be orthorexic.
Becoming unhealthy, is that meaning mentally or physically?
For me, it was mostly physically. Obviously, there were thoughts in my head. It was very much like, I don't want to say OCD necessarily, but more just like, I have to do this.
Like controlling
your life. It was very anxious. It was like, oh my goodness, if I eat a cookie. I remember being, after I went skiing one day, my brother and his friend went and got McDonald's, and his friend was like, Sarah, just eat a fry. And at this point, they kind of knew that I was weird with food. He's like, just eat a fry. And I was like, I'm not eating a fry. I'm not eating a fry. I would not eat one McDonald's fry because I was afraid that it would make me fat.
After you've been skiing all day, burning so many
exactly,
calories.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
And I was so afraid to eat one McDonald's fry.
Do you feel like you got a taste of, did you ever get to a point where you're completely content with your body?
No. What's crazy is that I got down to 100 pounds in high school.
Wow.
And I still looked at my body and I still thought I had a big stomach. Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
It's so sad looking at the pictures now because I would take tons of progress pictures and I'm like, holy moly. I looked at myself and I was like, I still have belly. And I was skinny any stick. I did not look healthy at all. And I wasn't healthy. I got my blood drawn and I was not healthy. I didn't have a period.
You weren't getting enough nutrition.
Yeah. My face was sinking in my eyes, and people started making comments.
How long did that last, and how were you able to snap out of that?
I had a friend one day after a high school game. We went to Wendy's, because that was the thing you do. You go to Wendy's after a football game. And we drove there together. And before we got out of the car, she's like, Sarah, can I ask you a question? And she's like, my best friend. I was like, yeah, what's up? And at that point, I just knew. I was like, she's going to ask me. She's like, are you sick? And I was like, oh. I was like, I know why you're asking this. And at that point, I knew what I'm doing is not right.
How long was this process?
I would say this was about...
Because you started junior year.
Yeah, it was about junior year. And for a while, it was fine until it got really severe, until I got really strict with it. I would say it was probably about 10 months to a year. And so it wasn't super long in this period. I was able to luckily realize it pretty quick thanks to my friend, who was the one who said, hey, are you sick? Everybody's wondering.
Was nobody else, like the family that you were doing Whole30 with or anything, did anyone else say any comments like, oh, you're maybe taking this too far?
No.
They were just like, good for you?
It was actually, once my friend said this, it was interesting how she asked this question, and all of a sudden the floodgates opened, where she was like, hey, are you sick? Everybody's wondering. The guys are wondering, are you okay? And I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing?
You're noticing this?
Yeah, I'm starting to notice that, like, I thought I was doing everything right, and I guess I'm not. Like, what are you guys saying? I look sick. I'm being healthy and fit over here. I'm going to the gym. I'm doing Kayla Itzing's workouts. So, you know, I'm like...
Was that devastating to you? Because you're like,
For sure.
I'm working so hard to get that external validation, and now it's kind of the opposite. That would be really hard.
And then it was interesting because then my mom would start coming to me and be like, hey, why is so-and-so from Relief Society asking me if you're okay? Or why is so-and-so telling me that they're praying for you? And I was like... yeah, I don't know. And so my mom was like, I think you're taking this too far. And so we went and got my blood drawn, and a lot of things came back malnutritious. So I was like, okay. I didn't have my period at that point too. And then I don't know what happened. I just think I was like, okay, I need to come out of this. I want to get healthier. And I think there was a sense that I was feeling so deprived of food that I was like, if I can gain weight, that means I get to eat more food. So it's kind of exciting to me too, in a sense where I was like, now I can eat more. And so for a while then it was like, I can eat whatever I want. And I didn't necessarily binge on bad foods. I just was able to, wow, I'm that person that can just eat a lot of healthy food and not gain weight. And there's a sense of pride for a little, like, this is awesome. It's just fascinating to look back on it and realize how consumed I was by how I looked and food and everything. And there was so much emotion around it. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if done in a way that doesn't serve me, it was just really...
So once you start getting that nutrition back and eating a lot more calories, did you start to gain weight?
Yeah.
And how mentally did you do with that? Were you like, okay, I'm doing what's right for my body, it's okay? Or was that really hard on you?
It was definitely hard. I worked with a trainer, and he was really helpful just to help me kind of get in the right mindset. And I think too, I was able to finally realize, like, okay, I do look really skinny. I'd love to gain muscle, but it was hard because I was afraid of gaining weight and just all of a sudden getting huge. But this trainer was able to help me gain weight and gain muscle, and I still felt really good.
So it was probably an improvement where he's helping you do it the right way, where you're like, okay, I look strong, I look healthy,
I'm getting stronger.
nourished.
That's when I got into CrossFit, and I was like, wow, lifting weights is fun. I started seeing these girls that were strong, and they're lifting so much weight, and I was like, damn, that's so badass. I want to be able to do that. And I realized if I want to do that, I need to eat so that I can gain muscle. And so it was really cool to then shift my perspective on, I want to be strong. I want to have muscle. And at that point too, I knew I wanted to serve a mission. And in order to go on a mission, I needed to get healthy. I needed to gain weight. And so that was also a motivator too, of like, hey, if I want to go on a mission, I want to make sure that I go and I'm healthy.
So you got healthy enough to go on your mission?
Yeah. It took about 10 months for me to be able to gain weight back.
How was your mental health during this, though? You had mentioned, I don't know if it was OCD, but a lot of those tendencies are very compulsive. And to undo that and unlearn things, were you doing that simultaneously, or did it come naturally?
I still struggled, but I was able to eat more. But I feel like a lot of the healing around my relationship with food happened more after my mission. Even though I was able to eat more, there were still times that I'd get really stressed. Before my mission is when I started learning about counting my macros, and I started to learn about protein, carbs, and fats. And it was really cool to me to be able to learn how I can actually eat whatever I want while still staying with my macros. So that was something I was able to learn before my mission. But even though that was really empowering, whenever I would eat something outside my macros, it really stressed me out. And so it'd be hard to go on dates and it'd be hard to do stuff.
So
Although
you were
I was
very strict.
yeah, I still had my control. I was still very disciplined. Although I was still able to eat more because I was counting my macros and still eating the Halo Top and the desserts or whatever. Whenever I was eating things outside of that, it would still really stress me out. So although it was a level better, the headspace was still very fear-based. It was still very scarce around food.
I know. Food and body image shouldn't take up that much mental space in your brain. There's so much more life and things to focus on, but when you're so focused on that, it's so consuming. Even counting your macros or trying to stay healthy, that becomes Sarah. After your mission, did you let go of some of those eating habits and were able to free up some of that mental space?
Yeah, it's been a process. I actually didn't stop tracking my macros until this year. And that's what my whole nutrition business was around, is tracking macros, which I think it can be a really great tool. And I really had to heal my relationship with the tool of tracking macros too. So on my mission, for my first 8 months of my mission, I was pretty good. I was disciplined. And then there came a point where I was like, I'm in Chile. I'm just going to enjoy the food. And I went a little bit too far on the other hand, where I ate so much. I felt sick and I gained a lot of weight fast. So I came back home from my mission, completely lost my identity. I was this fit, healthy Sarah before, and I come back and my face is puffy and I feel uncomfortable in my body and I don't recognize myself. And I just felt ugly, for lack of better words. I just didn't feel good. I didn't feel like myself. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get back into CrossFit. I'm going to get back into count my macros. I know how to do this. I know how to do it all. And it was hard. Like, it was a lot harder than I expected. And it was hard because everybody told me when I'd come from a mission, oh, the weight is just going to fall off and slide right off. And it didn't just slide right off. I still haven't gotten back ever to my pre-mission weight, which is okay. I'm not necessarily trying to get there by any means, but I never have. And that's been a process too. So after my mission, I would track my macros. And the only way I knew how to track my macros is just being in a diet. I'm not sure if you guys know too much about tracking your macros, but a lot of people talk about like, hey, I want to go into a cut, which is basically like, I want to go into a calorie deficit in order to lose weight. Or people might be like, hey, I'm tracking my macros, but I'm more in maintenance, which is just eating as much as you're burning, just basically to maintain your weight. You can have goals of strengthening your muscles. Some people go into bulks, but all I knew was when you track your macros, you're in a cut. And so if I would just track in a cut for a really long time, and being in a calorie deficit for too long is not good. Even though I wasn't necessarily losing all the weight, mentally I would get so burnt out because I'm eating little calories, yet I'm asking on dates and to get ice cream, and it would stress me out. I'm like, oh my goodness. And eventually get to a point where I'm like so burnt out from doing this that I'd say, screw it. And then I would just enjoy myself, and then I'd gain some of the weight back. And then like, freak, I gained the weight back. And then I'd get back to tracking my macros. And so tracking macros became this diet to me. Instead of really giving me freedom, it was just another form of dieting. And so finally I was able to realize, I started to educate myself and realize there's different phases. And if I can learn to track in maintenance and maybe in a bulk, and maybe that will give me a little bit more freedom, and I can learn to take my nutrition in more of a periodization. And so that was the next level of like, oh, wow, this is making more sense to me. I don't need to be in a cut forever. And I was still in this control of, okay, this is how I do it. And then I got certified as a nutrition coach, and that's what I would teach people. Is like, hey, here's how we periodize your nutrition. Here's how to track your macros.
And when was this? So you get home from your mission to when you're starting to do this as a coach or nutritionist?
Yeah. I started my business, I think it was 2022. It was around then that I started to do my nutrition coaching business.
And at that point, what was your goal with that? Were you like, I just want to help people lose weight, help educate people on nutrition?
Yeah, for me at that time, learning about nutritional periodization was huge. I was like, oh my goodness, people are counting their macros, and counting your macros in Utah is a really trendy thing too. And they're just doing it in a cut. And I would see that, and that happened to me. And so I was like, I want to help people learn that you can periodize your nutrition so you're not having to be in a cut all the time. And as you can do that, it actually makes weight loss a lot more sustainable because you're not having to be in a cut all the time. And so here now I can help women and myself too, be like, hey, let's cut for 3 months. And then let's spend 4 to 6 months in a maintenance phase where you're just really enjoying yourself. You're still being intentional, but you're not having to be so strict with your calories. And then we can go into another cut phase. And that's how we can lose weight over time, is not by being so strict. Get to your body goal in 3 months. So let's take the long-term approach that can actually give you more freedom and really help you.
Helping people find the balance with it all.
Yeah. And so that was my goal with it. And it was great. It was great for me, and it was great for a lot of my clients, and I helped a lot of people, and I loved it. And then I started to realize later on, like, man, I don't actually want to track my macros forever. I don't want to be tied to a nutrition app my whole life. Although this tool has been really helpful, and I think that's what it is it's a tool. It's brought a lot of awareness to me. It's really taught me about protein, carbs, fats, nutrition, what foods have fiber in it, what does a balanced plate look like. But I don't want to have to rely on this app my whole life, nor do I think anybody should. And I started hearing people talk about, if you can fully trust your body can actually tell you what it needs. And I'm like, what? How do people just trust their body? I have to put into my fitness pal and I can trust that. I'm like, screw this whole intuitive eating thing.
It can't be that simple.
Yeah, it's like, it can't be that simple. You can't just tune into your body. It's not that simple because it does take work that comes with it, but it started to pique my interest. I don't want to track my macros forever. I don't think anybody should have to be reliant. There has to be a way where if you're truly in tune with your body, it will tell you exactly what it needs. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's either or. I think macros, not for everybody, but can be a great awareness tool for people to learn. Because you can't tell someone who doesn't know anything about nutrition, hey, go intuitively eat. They're like, okay, I want cake and I want ice cream. Is that me being intuitive? Like, okay, we got to learn. Knowledge is power. Mm-hmm. And so we got to learn and build awareness around what are you eating right now? And what is protein? What's carb? What's fat? What's fiber? What does your body like? How does this make me feel? And so I started learning about mindfulness of how can I start creating mindfulness? So while I was tracking my macros, I would really check in with myself before I would eat a meal. I'd take a note. How does my belly feel? How are my emotions feeling? Am I feeling stressed right now? Am I feeling calm? So I start practicing mindfulness and getting really curious. How is my body doing? Then I'd eat my food. Okay, how is this tasting in my mouth? Do I actually like how this tastes? Or am I just eating it because the macros are good? How do I know if my body likes it? So just asking these questions, being very mindful. When I'm done eating the plate, maybe checking in halfway and be like, okay, how does my body feel? Am I full? Am I satisfied? Or am I still hungry? Checking in with myself after the meal. How am I feeling now? Did my body like that? Checking in an hour later. How am I feeling after I ate that? Is my stomach kind of hurting? How do I feel the next day? Oh my goodness, how am I feeling the next day after I ate that? Is my digestion good? How am I feeling? Does my body like that? And so it's starting to practice this awareness and this mindfulness while I was tracking, which was helpful. So that one day I was able to then become so aware of my body. Because I had practiced that, then I felt comfortable to not track my macros. And it was like letting go of the training wheels and be like, hey, I'm going to try and be mindful and be intuitive. I have the knowledge. I don't need any more knowledge. You really don't need that much knowledge in order to practice this. People think you just need knowledge is power, but too much knowledge is
It's restriction because then you can become obsessive.
You become obsessed. You're like, once I just get one little bit more knowledge. Knowledge is power, but also you need action. You need to practice. If I was wanting to become good at soccer, I'm just going to watch soccer games all day. Oh my goodness, you make this pass, you make this line, and then you go over here, and it, oh, awesome. Okay, get on a soccer field. Now you got to go practice it. Mm-hmm. And you're never going to become good at soccer if you actually go practice what you're learning. The same thing, you got to practice it, and then you got to let go so that way you can really embody it. It's been a super interesting experience from then. Now leaning more into the spiritual aspect, realizing that my relationship with my body and food is all subconscious programming. It's all about these beliefs that I'm holding. And if I can actually rewire these beliefs to align with how I want to feel, it makes life a lot easier per se. If I can feel these uncomfortable feelings, if I can recognize the patterns that I keep getting myself in and view them with curiosity rather than judgment, then I can start shifting them and changing them to how do I want to feel? How do I want to be?
And when do you feel like that started this last year? Did that shift for you where you feel more confident in that? Or what was it? Why did you want to make that change? Not counting your macros anymore? Was it something, or were you just like, I'm really trusting my body now and I want to try this out?
Yeah. There are a few things. Again, people started coming into my life and started talking about how they just have this deep relationship with their body. And for me, I've always craved that. I've always craved this deep relationship with my body. And I think for me, it's always been like, oh, how can I change my body so I can feel better? How can I change? It's like, whoa, what if I like tuned inward? What if I had a relationship with my body almost like a best friend? What if I was so in tune with my body that it had all the answers? And I hear people talk about this. I just tune into my heart and tell me what to do. I'm like, what do you mean you tune into your heart? I just like tune into my womb space and it helps me and gives me the creativity. What, your womb? Like, what are you talking about your womb? What the heck? And I just hear these people talk about how they just tune inwards and they can tell what their body wants. And I realized how much I craved that. But me continuing to track my macros was making it hard for me to get there.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm still in that process of this is so uncomfortable and new for me.
So what is it today?
Oh, I'm still in. That's the thing is I'm still kind of in it. Right now. A big process of mine is just learning to regulate my nervous system, because what I've realized over all the years is cravings for food and anxiousness around food is all because of a stressed nervous system, an active nervous system, and not feeling my feelings and realizing these patterns and these beliefs, they all coincide. And so right now, I was reading this girl's newsletter the other day, and she was talking about how cravings and I really resonate with this story. She was going to the kitchen to grab snacks midday. She's like, instead of judging myself, she's like, I got really curious. Why was I doing this? I wasn't hungry, but she kept going for snacks midday. And she realized it's because midday is usually when she's most stressed. So instead of turning to the food, how can you tune into your body and give your body that relaxation or calming your nervous system at that time so that you can actually give it what it wants? So your cravings are actually messengers. They're not bad. They're just telling you, hey, what do you actually need right now? Do you need love? Do you need to relax?
Or do you need food?
Or do you need food?
Yeah.
There's so many different things. And when we can pause and tune inwards, that's when we'll know. But we're so quick and reactive with our decisions because we live in a stressed world. It's just like, and now I think a lot of society is realizing, well, I'm tired. I'm really tired.
I love that you relate it back to the spirituality of it, because I feel like the big shift for you right now is your body for so long has been the enemy, and now you're trying to make it your best friend. And so that's a long process of like, no, my body's working for me and with me, and it's not the problem that I'm trying to fix.
Yeah.
And so changing that mentality slowly through different habits, it's going to take a while. So you kind of give yourself some grace.
Well, it's really cool. I actually had this really powerful spiritual experience about a month ago, and it was in like a therapy session, and I was basically having this conversation with my body. And I was like, hey, this is what I want. I just feel like, I just want to feel lighter in my body. And I always felt like my body was like, no, we don't want to, we're going against each other. And I just felt like, well, if you want that, then I want that. I was like, oh, so we want the same thing. And it's the first time that I felt like, oh,
we're on the same team.
We're on the same team. Yeah. I was like, if it's a divine desire of mine to feel light in my body, then my body wants that too. And if my body wants that too, then that means my body has all the answers. And if I can tune inwards, regulate my nervous system, and really check in with her, check in with me, I can know exactly what to do. And not just when it comes to food, but with life.
Yeah, totally.
With everything.
And then you're no longer swimming against the current. You're just going with what your body wants and feels and needs.
You're going with the flow, which I've also really gotten into feminine energy, which feminine energy is all about flow and moving with the flow. And that's really what I've been practicing is how can I be in flow with my body, be so in sync? And again, I'm in that process right now and realizing how big of an impact our nervous system has and plays into our health and our decisions, and how if we can just calm and tune into our nervous system and learn to regulate our nervous system with curiosity and love, then essentially we can actually make decisions that align with who we want to become and who we want to be, instead of making reactive decisions based on conditioning of subconscious programming and learning to actually reprogram our subconscious mind to align with what we want.
So through this process, when was your daughter born? How old's your daughter?
She's almost 18 months. Oh. She was actually a leap day baby by complete accident.
Oh my gosh.
Not on purpose. Yeah. I tried to hold off and she was like, I'm coming today. It's so funny. Anyway,
so how does that technically work? The leap day baby?
Yeah.
So when will you celebrate?
Yeah. So this year we celebrated on February 28th.
Okay.
And then we'll just do February 28th because she's a February birthday.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that's I guess how we're going to make it work. I don't really know. It's kind of crazy.
29th hits, it'll just be like an even bigger.
Epic.
Yeah, it'll be like the big birthday.
I think that's something cool and unique that she'll be able to forever say I was born on leap day.
Totally. Especially like she came a whole month early. So her due date was like March 31st. And it's just funny. It's totally lined up with her personality where she's like, I do things at my own time. I'm just like, oh my goodness. Yeah, you were born at your own time. You had no decision.
How was your relationship with your body being pregnant and then postpartum?
Yeah. To be honest, pregnancy was so healing for me. It was the first time that I was able to see my body and be so amazed by my body. Due to some of the eating stuff and exercise stuff that I had gone through, I went a really long time without having a period, years without having a period, and always had issues with my period. People would always ask me like, no, are you worried about having kids? So it kind of got in my head when people would ask me that, which don't ask people that, by the way. If people have a regular period, don't ask if they're worried about having kids. It's not what you need to put in their mind. But it did get to my head. It was like, I don't know if I'm going to have kids. And so when I got off birth control and we just started to try or basically just not prevent, I totally believed and convinced myself that I'd be someone who had to do IVF, and nothing wrong with IVF, but I was like, I'm going to have to be that person it's going to be really hard for me to get pregnant. And then I actually ended up getting pregnant just fine. And we weren't even to the point of trying yet. I was just not preventing, and I got pregnant, and it just felt like God was like, nothing's wrong. Like, it was a loving slap in the face. It was like, nothing's wrong with you, and you are fully healthy and capable and whole to hold a baby. And so it was really beautiful for me to watch my body. I even get emotional and like chills talking about it, to watch my body grow a baby and to see how hard I was on my body for so long. And I always thought something was wrong with me. And to see my body show up for me and grow one of my favorite human beings now. I don't know, I'm getting so emotional. I started my period today too. Like, all the emotions are coming through. It's like connecting even to like my womb space and just being like, thank you for holding space for her and for showing up and growing. And like,
it was like how resilient your body is, that like
totally
it could bounce back. And still, were you very mindful around the time when you're like, okay, we're going to start trying, making sure your periods are regular, making sure you were getting enough nutrition?
Yeah. So at the end of 2022, I had this experience and I just felt like you need to work on your hormones. So I actually hired a hormone specialist in the April of 2023, and she helped me just check in with my hormones. And we were still in the process of figuring things out. And then it was in June 2023 is when I conceived, but I was still working with her. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I'm pregnant. I was like, we weren't even taking all the supplements yet that we need to for the hormonal aspect, but I got pregnant. And
I love that your experience with pregnancy was so happy and probably so healing for you and everything you've been through with your body.
Totally. And I ended up doing a home birth too. And I think the preparation for that is all about trusting your body, about realizing my body is made to birth. A woman's body is made to, even just the sense that my body was building a baby and I didn't have to consciously put any energy towards it. Obviously I'm tired. I'm subconsciously, things are happening, but I'm like, I don't have to think about anything. My body just knows what to do. And then birthing a baby, as I can really tune in with my body, with the contractions and flow with my body will know what to do. Had my baby, what comes? The colostrum. How did my body do that? I don't know. It just knows. And then a few days later, it says, okay, your baby's gotten enough colostrum. Here comes the milk. Milk comes in. How? I have no idea. Holy moly. And then your milk composition changes based on your baby's need. Like, my milk was so fatty. Makes sense. My baby was a preterm baby. She was a preemie. She needed fatty milk in order for it to, and then all of a sudden she's this chubby little baby. And I really feel like that all came because I was so in tune and trusted my body. And it made my postpartum experience a lot better because although, yes, I was a little heavier, I was soft, and I saw a lot of beauty in it. Like, wow, my body just went through a lot. And I'm so grateful for my body. And I'm human. So obviously now that I'm a year and a half out of that, I still have my struggles where like, okay, I'm now a year and a half. Obviously I'm human and I still have my thoughts and feelings, and it's something I'm still working through. And I'm still in that process of, okay, how can I still feel at peace with my body? How can I feel so amazed and in tune? I'm almost getting to this level of deepness that's even a little bit different. How can I be so in tune with my body? And again, creating that relationship with my body where this deep sense of trust and love and connection. It's almost like learning a new language.
Yeah, and you're in that process still of getting to know and falling in love with your body and falling in love with that every day probably. It's going to be a lifelong thing. And it's like any relationship. You have to put work into it consistently and be mindful and intentional with any relationship. And the most important relationship should be with yourself, but I feel like most people that becomes low on the list.
100% agree. Yeah. And this is something that I tell a lot of my clients or a lot of people who I talk to about this stuff is exactly what you said. The most important relationship is the relationship with yourself. And if you want to gain a better relationship, imagine you're getting a better relationship with a friend. How are you going to speak to them? Are you going to be like, oh, what's wrong with you? Why can't you do this differently? Oh my goodness. Be like, hey, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. let me just be quiet and let me listen to you. When you usually feel close to someone is when they listen to you and you can speak. Like, I feel close to you guys because you're listening to me. So when we can just be quiet and really tune in inwards and listen. And even if you're listening to the thoughts of like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. What am I listening to? Just listen to that. You're witnessing yourself. And so developing a relationship with yourself is exactly like developing a relationship with a friend. Get curious. What questions do you want to ask them? Because in reality, they're all inwards. They're all there. You just got to learn to listen. And it's going to be so uncomfortable because it's not normal. In reality, it's actually the most normal thing, but we've been taught to disassociate from our bodies, to find answers outside of us, to find answers elsewhere. Information, content. It's all great, but how can we actually bring it all inwards and say, what do I want? What tells me inside?
What are some tips and techniques you've been using to have that relationship with your body and heal some of those traumas?
I work with a subconscious coach, and she's been super helpful for me. She does a lot of somatic therapy. And so a lot of it is feeling my feelings, which sounds simple, but is really powerful. And so really, if I start feeling triggered, labeling that feeling, oh my goodness, I'm feeling frustrated. Okay, let me just feel frustrated right now. And then you can feel the sensation grow. Sometimes if I'm feeling angry, I've started learned how to express anger, hitting a pillow, screaming to a pillow. If I'm feeling sadness, instead of being like, don't cry, how can I just allow myself to be sad?
Then your emotions come and go. It's so funny.
Yeah.
As you're talking, I have this memory of one of my friends growing up, her mom. I remember like I fell and hurt my arm or something, and she told me to lay down, and she was like, close your eyes. Now, where does it hurt? And I would tell her, and she's like, okay, how big is it? I would explain how big it was. She's like, what color is it?
I love that.
What does it feel like? And then I would make it visual in my head, even though it was just my arm hurt.
So what she's doing, if you're curious, she's just helping you get out of your mind and get into your body.
Yeah, it was so interesting. But then she was like, okay, now imagine a little helper. He's like crawling up and goes in your throat and goes all the way down to your arm. What tools does he have? How is he going to fix it? And at the very end, she's like, how did your arm feel? And I was like, good, because that little guy fixed the little ouchie.
I love this.
But I feel like that was such a practice that I started doing when I was little, when I would get hurt, and I would identify mainly as a color. And then it made it real. And then it was something that I could fix and see. It was tangible. I feel like that's something I want to start doing, even with emotions. With your emotions, sometimes you're like, I'm sad, but what does that sadness look like? Like inside of your body? What color is that? What is that? And if you can paint that picture, it's easier to visualize and then fix.
Yeah. Thanks for telling me that, because even with Ruby now, I've never heard it explained that way. And I'm sure it was so cool for you too, to be able to grow up and have that experience of being able to be mindful. Because essentially what happens is when people get ouchies or even just feel emotional, what do? They get in their head, why am I feeling this way? What is this? And so they're all of a sudden their nervous system's like, you know, same thing. When you scrape your knee as a kid, you're like, oh my goodness, ow. But in reality, you're in your head. It's all the stories in your head that are not true, but they cause so much reaction in our body. But if we can get out our head and into our body, and that's the same thing with emotions, you know, exactly what that lady took you through. For me, it's a practice of in the morning, maybe first thing. Right now, my biggest practice is midday, because I'm realizing that it's midday when I usually tend to feel the most stressed.
Like that crash out. I feel like we all have similar feelings.
Totally. And so for me, it's actually been like, how can I have a midday meditation or even 10 minutes to myself to check inwards? And so it's tuning inwards and literally just feeling, what sensations do I have in my body? Okay, I'm feeling a little bit of pressure in my chest. What does that feel like? Exactly what you said. What color does it feel like? Blue? Okay, that's what it feels like. What emotion, if I had to identify emotion? Okay, I'm kind of angry. And then what happens with a lot of people like, oh, I'm angry. How can you just allow yourself to feel angry without tying any stories to it? Just feel anger. It's so easy for us to tie stories, and that gets you back into your head. How can I just feel angry? I'm just really angry. Can I do some somatic releases? Or sometimes you can clench your fist and bring all the energy in and just like release. Like that's a way to release anger. Scream in a pillow, punch. For me, the main emotion that I've felt this last week is just sadness. Why? I don't really know. And sometimes you might not know why you feel something. You don't need to know, but just feel it. And as we can feel it, we can let energy move through our body instead of it getting trapped.
Because then it comes out in other ways. And that's what's so hard. I feel like so many people can relate to that, where you think you're fine, you think you're fine, you think you're fine. But then one day you crack and it becomes way bigger of a problem.
Yeah. I listened to a podcast the other day and he explained it so well, where he's like, imagine a closet and you're hanging up your clothes, you're folding them, putting them away, you're keeping your closet nice, taking things out that don't fit you. You're constantly keeping your closet organized. It's going to stay really clean. Let's imagine you just throw all the clothes in your closet and imagine it eventually just, it builds up, it builds up, it builds up. Your closet's getting super full. Eventually the doors are going to open and all the clothes are going to spill out. And that's exactly what storing your emotions and not feeling your feelings does. You have an explosion. You take it out on people. You hurt people.
Or physically, your body starts shutting down and you have no choice but to deal with.
People get illnesses or sicknesses. A really interesting book too to read is that Biology Belief, if you guys ever heard of it. It's a super fascinating one that talks all about like epigenetics and how your environment really affects your genes and how they express themselves and how we are actually very in control of how our health as a whole, just by our belief systems and by our programming. And that's another way of expressing it. It's super fascinating.
I know, it's so cool. Are you open about sharing your health journey and your body image mainly to get clientele to work with? Or is that something that you just want to put out to the world to share with others?
Yeah. Both, I could say. Yeah, honestly, both.
How did that start when you were being so open and vulnerable on social media? Was that before working as a nutritionist?
I feel like it started more with the nutritionist. I still remember one time I worked at 180 Tacos. That was my first job. If you guys ever been
I
there.
love 180.
Yeah. It's so good.
So
oh my
good.
god! So just went there the other day. Buffalo chicken taco.
Yes,
Oh,
so
good. But that was my first job, and I remember seeing this Instagram post when I worked there, and it was of this girl who showed her body and rolls and stuff like that. And this is when I was at the thick of my eating issues. And I actually remember her coming into 180 Tacos and recognizing her and be like, I saw your post on Instagram. And I thanked her. I said, thank you so much. I needed that. And that always stuck with me. I'm so grateful that she showed real life and vulnerability about what a real human body looks like. I think ever since then, I just feel like Instagram is so picture perfect. It's the fitness Instagram influencers, especially in Utah. It's so heavy here. And I just felt this desire to like show people that it's not always that way. You can be fit and still have the rolls. You can be fit and still have the cellulite. Some of these perfect models aren't actually that perfect. They're just not showing their imperfections. And I felt this pull to
be more authentic.
To show women that, hey, we're actually all the same. And this isn't such a highlight reel. And let's actually praise it, the fact that we're very similar. Everybody has rules. Everybody has cellulite or stuff that they don't love about themselves. And that's okay. Just because you don't love something about yourself doesn't mean you can't love yourself. I personally always appreciate when people are really real and authentic. And so
that's something maybe you're chasing a little bit, and to be that for someone. Like when to see a post and be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I valued that. Yeah.
Totally. How was your husband through all of your body image stuff? Because I feel like a chunk of this, you were married and with your husband. How does he deal with that?
It was hard. He's very supportive. Very, very supportive. But my husband also going through his stuff too. My husband went through a porn addiction. And so as I'm going through my body stuff, I have a husband who's also, has this addiction to pornography, which kind of adds on top of it. He's going through his own thing as his struggle is also showing inside me. Wow, this really is affecting you and what needs to be healed here.
Do you guys inspire each other to be more vulnerable and share more? Like both of you doing it? Like, I'm going to share about this part of my life. Are you okay with that? Or vice versa?
Yeah. You're saying, did I ever talk to my husband like, hey, I'm going to share this about my body?
Yeah, or even just him being open about his pornography addiction, and those conversations that you guys have privately inspire you, where you're like, whoa, you're helping a lot of people. I want to open up about my hard things and help a lot of people. Or is it more personal, individually, just on your own journey?
I'd say maybe both. My husband's always been really pulled to share. I think both of us are just very open and vulnerable people. And it's not necessarily something that we were like, hey, let's develop this. It was more just like
who we were.
Yeah. And I think that's actually what really attracted us to each other. 'Cause we were both authentic with each other right off the bat and vulnerable. And I think that's what attracted us together so much, is we were just like, wow, we actually think a lot alike. And my husband always felt this pull to help men with pornography.
Was he really open and honest with you about that addiction prior to marriage, or was that something after you guys got married that he confided in you?
Yeah. My husband told us about a month within us dating that he had struggled with pornography and that he was working on it. And obviously, I'm sure women would be like, how did you still date him if he was looking at pornography? And I think, when he told me, there was a sense of peace in my heart and a lot of compassion. I never had a pornography addiction, but I had looked at pornography a couple times when I was younger, and just the guilt and the shame that I had felt from just looking at it 2 times. When he told me, I was just like, oh my goodness, I felt so much shame about that. I can't believe how much you'd feel being that you've struggled with it for 10 years. And I think in that moment, instead of judgment, I just felt so much compassion. And it really helped that he was working with a coach. He was working with someone to overcome it. So it wasn't like, hey, I'm struggling, I'm not doing anything about it. It was like, hey, I'm struggling with this. And I actually feel really passionate about overcoming this and wanting to figure this out. Hence why I'm telling you about it. And his honesty so soon in, and his honesty throughout the first few years of our marriage, his honesty meant so much.
How does that play into your guys' relationship? Obviously, there's a layer of trust there. There's a layer of compassion, but is it also tricky to navigate that addiction? That's his story, his addiction. But for you, how do you deal with that or overcome some of those stigmas or hard conversations or even your body image issues? Does that come into play?
For sure. Yeah. It's been a journey, and I feel like there's been different chapters of this journey. In this chapter, this is how much I wanted to know. In this chapter, it was like, okay, actually, I'm realizing how much I'm losing myself in your own addiction, that I'm so consumed by making sure you overcome this. And once you overcome this, then I'll be happy. I'm like, wait, no, I'm giving way too much power to this. This is your thing, not my thing. And it was like this ever chapter of letting go of that and letting that be his story, not mine, but still continue to communicate about it, which is important. Then we got to a point of maybe I actually don't need you to talk to me about this because this is your thing. And that's really scary for a lot of people too. If Hunter wants to talk to me about it, I trust that he'll come and talk to me about it. And it's really had to build enough safety inside myself and trust within myself to be able to do that.
And relinquish that control is probably really hard. So much trust you have to like be willing to give someone.
For sure. And it was a process for us to be able to get to this place where I now feel like, hey, you don't need to talk to me about this, but if you want to, I trust that you'll come and talk to me about it. And that gives him the power back to be like, okay, this really is in my hands and I'm going to figure this out. And it did take trust. I do trust him that if anything ever does come around that he'll talk to me about it. And if I ever feel this pull that I need to talk to him about it, we totally can. We've built that. We've built this relationship where it's not such a taboo thing. And that's one of the biggest parts, is making it not taboo. The reason why there's so much shame around it is because it's such a taboo thing, especially in our culture, especially growing up in a religion. Intentionally, they're trying to shame us about it, but there is a little bit of aspects that induce a little bit of shame.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and it almost makes it seem like such a bad thing that you're almost more drawn to it, where it's like, I really shouldn't do that, which makes you kind of want to do it more. Whereas if you're like, I could do that, but I don't want to do that. Do you have any advice for women? I love that he had that conversation with you before you got married and led with that open and vulnerable honesty that he had. I think it's a really common issue that a lot of people have. I think a lot of women and men struggle with it, and it's a huge part of marriage. Do you have any advice for a girl that might be listening that just discovered her husband looks at porn, or was blindsided by that, or they're trying to navigate that addiction? I feel like your husband's helping so many men on that side, but do you have advice for the women on the other side of things?
Yeah, thanks for asking, because honestly, as much as I think the men need support, and that's what my husband's doing, the woman needs support.
Yeah.
And I needed that.
It's a lot for you to carry because it's so out of your control, and you're supposed to support and understand, but I'm sure it takes a toll on you as well.
And it's really scary too, because at least in my situation, I never talked to anybody about it because I didn't know who to talk to about it. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want people to see Hunter differently.
Yeah.
Because I saw Hunter's heart. I knew Hunter so much more than just this pornography thing. But in a culture, it's like, oh, they struggle with pornography. That's all you see them as, is this guy who struggles with pornography. Then their marriage must be struggling. And then you start making these assumptions. Hunter and I actually still had a really great marriage, and he was struggling with pornography. And that is so taboo. But what I would say to a woman who might have just figured out, or they're working through this, is one, if you need someone to talk to, DM me, please. I'd love to hold space for you and talk to you. The second thing I would say is, it's so easy for the wife or the woman to get wrapped up in how can I fix this for him, and realize that you can't. You can't fix this for him. And also remember, this means nothing about you. This has nothing to do about you. There's only small percentage that it might, but most likely it has nothing to do with you. And that small percentage is someone who probably already doesn't have a good relationship with their wife, and it's not a good sex relationship. That's what a small percentage, but maybe it has something. And in reality, you should just get out anyways.
Yeah.
Besides the point, it has nothing to do with you. And
was that hard for you to accept that?
For sure. Yeah.
Like, this has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. It's really hard to accept that. But what good is it doing for me by holding on to that? Mm-hmm. And so if I can let that go, what freedom does that bring me? And also, what freedom does that bring Hunter?
And your relationship.
And our relationship, exactly.
You're just detaching things from it, where it can be its own thing. It doesn't have to be the thing.
Yeah. And there's a sense of, oh, but if I make it mean something about me, then in a sense, I can still control it. It's a false sense of control. But in reality, you're controlling it so that you can feel safe in your body. It all comes back to your nervous system. You feel unsafe. Your nervous system is feeling unsafe. So how can we create safety within your nervous system, even if he is struggling? What is this bringing up inside you that needs to be looked at? Something that Hunter and I have realized actually recently is how much we are each other's mirrors, which is hard, but also so beautiful. Okay, he's struggling with pornography. This is really showing me what inside me around my body needs to be healed. Because even if he's looking at these women all day or whatever, I probably will never look like them. And am I going to let that idea control my life, or do I want to be free from that? I'd rather be free from that and really own who I am, my confidence, what beliefs are coming up, or what feelings, what do I need to feel? The number one thing I would say to a wife or a spouse or a girlfriend is focus on your relationship with yourself first. And as you do that, it's actually going to help your husband. And the more that I actually disconnected from Hunter's pornography addiction and let him take all the power back and let him be empowered in his situation, it actually helped his progression faster. And then I was able to grow because I was not focusing so much on him, focusing on me. And then all of a sudden I was starting to grow too. And we're growing together now because we're not trying to control each other. We're actually just allowing each other space to grow and change and evolve. And it's not easy. It's hard. It's really hard to disconnect. It's sometimes still hard to this day. It's just part of the marriage of trying to figure out what is this right now and how can I let go and how can I set boundaries at the same time. It's still important to set boundaries, not to say like, I'm going to let go and let him be free. It's important to have boundaries too, but focus on your relationship with yourself first. Also, communication is important. If your husband's not getting help, have him connect with community. Shameless plug to Hunter. That's what Hunter's here to do, is just to create community so that it's not such a taboo subject.
Was he just feeling called, I need to share this and be open? Were you married for a long time before anyone even knew, or he ever shared anything with anyone?
Actually, since we were dating, he's been wanting to help men overcome pornography. Even though he was still struggling with it, he's like, this is such a big thing. He's always had this passion within him to help men. And then it was about 3 years into our marriage, he was at a really good spot. And he's like, I want to start opening up about this so that I can start creating something, whatever that may come about. And he's still kind of in that process of creating something. But
what was your initial reaction to that? Because you went from not knowing who you could open up to, because you're like, I don't want my family or my friends to just see him as this. Was that a hard transition for you, where you're like, well, I need to tell my family before you start posting about it? How was that transition?
I told Hunter, I said, if you want to start opening up about it, we need to talk to my parents first, because I didn't tell my parents that he struggled with pornography. I knew my parents would probably just say, run. I don't want my parents figuring out that you struggle with pornography through social media. That's terrible. And that was basically it. It was a little bit scary for me, because it's more of a fear around what are people going to think of Hunter, but what are people going to think of me? Someone who got married to someone who struggled with pornography, and they knew he struggled with pornography, and who's been in this.
And I understand how that would make you feel, but from an outsider's perspective, I feel like how the outside looks at you is, wow, Hunter's so lucky to have found someone who can see past that and have empathy for him, and not even still love him because he's worthy of love and all of the things, but it's just like,
truly see him in his heart.
As your parents, as your sister, as your friend, I would respect you so much more of like, wow, you saw something truly in this, and that is what love is about. So the fact that you guys started your marriage off like that, I feel like is a really cool thing, and I think that he is lucky to have you.
Thank you. And that means so much that you say that. And I've really had to disconnect that even if people do judge me, then that's okay. Because as we speak what is our truth and it feels right.
If they're judging you, it's probably something internal in them.
Totally.
If anyone has any negative emotions around it, it's probably something internally that they couldn't do, or that their husband struggles with the same thing. Most people who are like-minded like you and your husband and are willing to be vulnerable and connect with people and help people would not look at it that way.
Totally agree.
And it's okay too, like you were saying, if people are judging or do have strong views on that, that's okay. Like, they can hold that and they can think those things, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Because you can sleep at night, you can work on your marriage, you can be happy, and like, it doesn't matter.
And that's something I've really had to work on, even still now, is this person can have this truth and this can be our truth, and it's okay if it's a little bit different. For us, this is how we view pornography, and this is what's really helped Hunter overcome it, and that doesn't always align with what other people think or say, or how we live about it, or how we talk about it, or how we live our life. It's not going to align with everybody, and that's okay. It's the whole idea of people pleasing too. You're not going to please everybody, and if you constantly live in that state, you're not actually being authentic to yourself. That's where true dishonesty is, when you're not being authentic to who you are.
Have you noticed a huge change in him since starting this program? Has it brought a lot of purpose to his life?
Yes, and it has its own difficulties too. Yeah. Pornography is a hard subject to talk about, and I just can't read his comments on posts that go viral because people are rude. And so it's really hard. And at the same time, the amount of DMs that he's gotten from people being like, hey man, I appreciate you opening up about this. I've never told anybody I struggle with this, but I do need help. Or, hey man, I've been struggling with this and I haven't told my wife. But thanks so much for talking about this. Now I feel inspired. Or
Yeah.
I've gotten messages from women that are like, hey, thanks for talking about this. My husband struggles and I've never talked to anybody, and I don't know who to talk to, and I feel so alone. So many men and women are in this struggle and nobody's talking about it because there's so much shame around it. There's so much tabooness around it. It's like, you struggle with pornography, you're a bad person. It's like, no, you're not a bad person. What if pornography wasn't bad? And it's been something that's really helped me. And I know it's uncomfortable if people heard that. They're like, what? No, pornography is bad. I've had to really educate myself on addiction and how much shame is what fuels addiction. And something that's really helped me understand Hunter's addiction and is understanding how my relationship with food works. Something that really helped in healing my relationship with food is removing the labels of good and bad. And so that way, when I make a choice around what I want to eat, it's not, is this good or bad for me? It's, do I want this? Does this feel aligned with what I want? Same with pornography. What if pornography wasn't good or bad? What if it was just neutral? And that way men can approach it, or women, anyone who's struggling with it. I think that's also another thing. I think also women struggle with it more than we realize.
Yeah.
And we also need to take the taboo off that. They both struggle. And when we can realize that, then we can create space. But anyways, when we take away the good and bad labels, then you can really show up and say, well, do I want this? Does this align with what I want? And how will this make me feel afterwards? Again, it comes all back to mindfulness and pausing. My husband has a lot more things to it, but he's had a really cool journey and really being able to learn what works for him to overcome this. And essentially what's helped me with my body is exactly what's helped him with pornography. Feeling your feelings, regulating your nervous system, working on your subconscious beliefs, and realizing what beliefs am I carrying that no longer align with who I want to be and who I want to become. Traumas. I think traumas is also another hot word because people are like, trauma. Okay, so you were sexually abused, you were hit as a kid. No, that doesn't have to. I mean, yes. And you can have a trauma like, my mom told me I stuck out my stomach when I was younger. That was a little trauma for me. That really stuck with me and affected me. She didn't hit me. She was loving and kind to me, but that really affected me. Mm-hmm. And so traumas can be even really small things. And sometimes they can be generational things too. And they all affect our programming. And so it's been really cool to see exactly what has helped me in working through my body stuff is exactly what's helped Hunter work through pornography stuff. It's kind of all the same things.
Oh, it's really cool too. Hearing all of this, it's a lot of heavy stuff like body image, pornography, all these things. But you know what? It just makes both of you such dynamic humans. And the way that you're showing up for yourselves and others is so powerful, but also for your kids. I have 3 boys and I don't want to talk about pornography in a religious context at all. I want them to understand that thing where there's things in life you are faced with them and you say, does this align with who I want to be and who I want to become? I want to be mindful with alcohol, with drugs, with pornography, with whatever it is. I was taught very religious based practices, and I want to teach more mindful. And who are you and who do you want to be? And what are
Totally.
your highest values, even at these little boys I'm raising? Because then it's like they're in control and there's not the shame and transaction attached to it. If you don't do this, then you're going to get blessed. It's like, no, if you choose to do this or you choose to do this, that's who you're slowly becoming as
Yeah.
a person. And that is so powerful. And then the shame element kind of dissipates. And also knowing if you do decide to do things, that doesn't brand you for life. There's a way where you make decisions and then afterwards you're like, I don't like that. I don't like how I feel. I don't like how my body feels. And then you kind of pivot away from that.
Totally. Essentially, you're giving them the power back, saying, hey, you can make that decision. I read this book. I want to say it's Daring Greatly. Brene Brown is so great. And she talks a lot about parenting and how you can parent out of storytelling. So I could be like, hey, this is my experience looking at pornography and this is how it made me feel. That's my experience, but maybe you can experience it yourself to see how it would make you feel. And it's the same thing with food. Personally, I hold the opinion and the belief that I have not met someone who pornography does work for their life, but sure, maybe there's someone out there that it actually really helps them become who they want to be. That's something really hard for me to believe, but I'm not going to open this space. That could be the case. The same thing with like gluten. I eat gluten. I'm like, hey, I feel totally fine. I actually like how I feel when I eat some bread. And someone who's celiac is like, I feel sick. This is terrible. They have to experience that though, to be able to know that. Sometimes you don't necessarily need to experience it, but I think there is so much power in giving someone the choice.
Or just, yeah, the knowledge behind it.
I think it's good, like we were talking about, having the freedom to choose to do what you want and try what you want. I think it takes away that addiction mentality of, I could look at that, but that doesn't mean that every single time I'm alone I'm looking at it. Or I could have a drink of that, or I could eat that cookie, but that doesn't mean I'm going to binge on it later. It's in small doses. Nothing's bad, nothing's good, just how does it affect me type thing.
Yeah, I don't drink alcohol, but someone who drinks alcohol twice a year is still a healthy person. It doesn't also make them an alcoholic.
Yeah, I drink an alcohol. My husband drinks alcohol. And I think a lot of my friends and family who especially grew up very religious have that mentality of, if I start, I become addicted. Mm-hmm. But the reality of the stigma behind a lot of these things, and that's not true for everyone. Obviously, people become addicted to it. Maybe they feel amazing on it, but that's personal. But I think that there are these stigmas, or maybe there are people who didn't grow up religiously or something who can look at pornography every once in a while and not have it affect their day-to-day life. Not that I think it would make them a better person, but maybe it wouldn't be devastating to their life.
I've talked to a coach. Her name's Sarah Brewer. She also is a coach in pornography. I love her content. And I have met her and talked to her a little bit. We even talked about how some couples out there can, and this is such a taboo thing, and especially in our religion, I even say uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable saying it. Is like some,
I'm sweating.
I'm like, okay, this is uncomfortable to say because obviously I'm feeling uncomfortable with this belief and with this idea. But she's like, some people can look at pornography once or twice a year and be super healthy and just fine, and that does not mean they're a porn addict. People can use it in a healthy way, which I even hesitate saying that. I can tell my story. It's like, does that mean someone's gonna have permission? Is Hunter gonna listen to this and then that makes him feel like he can do that? Obviously there's still a level of safety within me that is still needing, like, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that can't be true for somebody, and that's okay.
But an alcoholic, they can kind of convince themselves, like, well, I could drink on occasion, or I could have one or two on a holiday or whatever. And then that spirals back where you start, it goes back. So it is just different for everybody, because some people can have a relationship with something, but it's not true for someone with a true addiction.
Yeah. And it does take a level of self-awareness to be like, does this align with me? Is this healthy for me? And I think someone will know if they tune inwards. Yeah, I look at pornography once or twice a year. Is that healthy for me? Some people will be like, yeah, I feel totally fine. And some people will be like, yeah, that's not good for me. And I think it's really about getting honest with yourself. I think in this day and age, we need to start becoming a little bit more self-aware with curiosity and developing a better relationship with ourselves, and so that way we can answer these kind of questions.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of the way we were raised, was curiosity was kind of frowned upon. And now even with your husband, him getting curious of like, why do I want to look at this right now? What is my mind telling me, my body telling me? Like, what does this mean outside of it? Really is so powerful in every aspect of your life.
Yeah, because in the end, it's not about pornography.
It really isn't.
No, it's not. It's my husband doesn't even, if he ever looks at it afterwards, he's like, that was stupid. He's like, I didn't even like that. But it's not about pornography. It's about what feeling is he avoiding to feel? And so how is he coping by getting quick dopamine through pornography? Or what thing is coming up that hasn't been looked at or healed? Something's trying to get his attention. And for a lot of men, it's so uncomfortable, especially because men aren't taught to, and I hesitate saying men, because men and women, we're not taught to feel our feelings. Yeah. And so what do? We cope. We eat. This is so uncomfortable. So I'm going to eat, get some quick dopamine. I'm going to hurry and look at pornography and quickly get off so I can feel something, feel a quick dopamine. We all cope. Scroll on social media. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling so uncomfortable. I'm just going to scroll on social media so I can't feel my feelings.
It's all escapism.
It's all escapism. Yeah. And when we can realize that pornography is the same thing as emotional eating, is the same thing as a scrolling on your phone addiction, which I think we all have a little bit of that. I am a victim of that. I know people are going to be like, it's not the same thing, but it kind of is in a sense. Yeah, maybe there's different levels and different consequences, but in a sense, when my husband was able to realize it's not about the pornography and he was able to actually go inwards and heal, what is trying to get my attention? Is there an past experience? And he's had some pretty profound experiences going back in the past and healing things that need to be looked at and that need to be reframed. And it's been hard and it's uncomfortable, but it's been so beautiful. And that's exactly what's helped him and propelled him forward in overcoming this, is actually addressing what's really going on. It's not about pornography. It's not about willpower. It's not about setting, and all these can be helpful tools for a time. It's not about setting the screen time password. It's about what is trying to get my attention that I need to feel. How can I feel that? And that's so uncomfortable for a lot of people, and the work that they're not willing to do.
It's hard because if you're not taught that, honestly, it feels like a luxury to put yourself first, especially me, 3 kids deep. Yeah. My needs are so far off in my brain. I was talking to Sammy about this the other day. I was like, the hard truth is, in order for me to be a better mom, be a better wife, be a better friend, all those things, I have to put myself first and I have to be intentional, but it's so hard when you're going on 0 sleep and your kids are hungry.
Yeah.
I can't take a second and be like, I need to feel my feelings. It's like, no, my literal children are hungry. I got to feed them. But you have to find the time.
For sure.
To put yourself first, whatever that looks like.
And I'd say even in that moment when your kids are hungry, obviously I don't have 3 kids yet, so I'm not sure exactly what that situation looks like. But even when Ruby's screaming, I'm like, holy, I'm feeling so much emotion right now. Sometimes I just put my hand on her. I'm just like, hey, I see you. And it's talking to that emotion. No bad parts. It's a book. It's really good. It talks about parts work, internal family systems. It's a really great concept. But it basically talks about talking to your emotions. And so even in that moment, be like, hey, I see you. I feel you. I'll get to you later.
Yeah, like, I'm not gonna forget about you.
I can't do this right now. I can't see you right now, but I do see you, and just want you to know I will feel you later. And so it's talking to that part and being like, okay, in that moment, in that 1 second moment, you're able to create safety and be like, hey, I'm okay. I see you. I'll come back to you.
I love that.
I think it's also interesting because we did grow up in a society that says, lose yourself so you can find yourself.
Yeah.
I see the concept in that. Serving is such a great thing, but what happens is people are so consumed with serving that all of a sudden they get older and like, who am I? And I actually think as you can serve yourself, that's how you are able to better serve others.
Yeah, because you're showing up with more intent with others. I think it becomes very passive service versus intentional service, where I am doing this because I have so much to give, because my cup is so full that I'm filling myself, that like, here's more love that I can give. Totally. Versus I'm coming out of a place of empty, so I'm trying to get more in my cup, and hopefully me serving you will fill my cup.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I love that analogy.
It's so crazy. I feel like we could talk to you for so long. I feel like we barely scratched the surface, honestly.
I love that you and your husband are both doing things stemmed from trials that you've had in the past. I think it sets up a really fulfilling life to help other people through the hard things you've been through.
Well, thank you. That means a lot.
Of course. So are you taking new clients now?
I'm actually not. I've been feeling like my business wants to take a shift. Okay. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like yet. So I'm actually not taking on clients at the moment. I'm kind of pausing with my coaching, just posting to whatever's on my heart right now. And then maybe I'll continue coaching in some form. I think I will, but I don't really know what that will look like yet. I'm in a really interesting in the middle phase where I'm just like
pivoting a little bit.
Something needs to change, but I'm not really sure what that is going to be yet.
I feel like it's going to be some type of energy, self-healing, coaching based on this knowledge. You're like, I read this book and this book and this book, and you're learning so much. I feel like maybe this is a phase of learning.
Totally.
And then taking what you're learning and providing help to others.
Yeah. I feel like it's learning and embodying. Like,
Yep.
I know a lot of information, but right now I'm applying it to myself. I'm like, holy, this is really hard. But this is all for a reason. I'm really learning to embody right now. I feel like that's just been my whole thing, is like embody, integrate. But thanks for saying that. It is helpful to see like, oh, what do you see? I do feel something along those lines. I don't really know. I'm kind of just feeling into it, but
it's exciting. The world we live in, there's so much opportunity and things that you can do to shift and change and provide and help people. And I'm sure a lot of your focus too is on motherhood right now. And
totally.
That's exciting too.
Yeah. It's sometimes uncomfortable to evolve, but at the same time, it's like, but I can. And it's beautiful.
Thank you so much for coming on, Sarah. This was such a good conversation.
I know. We love you. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Okay. Love you. Bye.